Sarah Mitchell sat alone in a coffee shop, still wearing her wedding dress, makeup streaked across her face. Just hours ago, the man she thought would be her husband had called off their wedding, cruelly telling her she was too fat to be his wife. That same morning, Marcus Rodriguez was rushing between his two jobs, trying to make ends meet as a single father to his 8-year-old daughter, Emma. He never expected to find love again, let alone in a coffee shop with a heartbroken bride. When their paths crossed, something beautiful began. Marcus saw past society's shallow standards to the remarkable woman Sarah truly was. As he opened his heart and home to her, she discovered that real love has nothing to do with size. But could these two wounded souls really build a future together? Could a chance meeting between a dumped bride and a struggling single dad turn into the kind of love most people only dream about? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The wedding invitation lay face down in a puddle of spilled coffee, its elegant script bleeding into the dark liquid. Sarah couldn't stop staring at it, her trembling fingers clutching a paper napkin that was already damp with tears. 6 hours ago, she had been in her hotel room, surrounded by bridesmaids and floating on clouds of tulle and happiness. "You look beautiful," her mother had said, adjusting the veil with hands that shook almost as much as Sarah's did now. Thomas won't know what hit him. Thomas. The name made her stomach clench. She'd known him for 3 years, loved him for 2, and now she didn't know if she'd ever be able to hear his name without feeling this crushing weight in her chest. The morning had started so perfectly. Her dress, ordered 2 sizes larger than she'd hoped to be, but still beautiful, had fit just right. Her makeup artist had worked magic, contouring and highlighting, until Sarah barely recognized her own reflection. For once, she'd felt truly beautiful. Then came the text. "We need to talk, now." Before the ceremony, she'd found Thomas in the church garden, already dressed in his tuxedo, pacing between the rose bushes her mother had insisted on for the photographs. The morning sun had cast strange shadows across his face, or maybe that had been the contempt she'd never noticed before. "I can't do this," he'd said, not even looking at her. "I thought I could, but—" "Sarah, look at you. You haven't lost any. Wait, if anything, you've gained more." The words had hit her like physical blows. "What, Thomas? I've been trying. You know how hard I've been—" "Trying isn't good enough." His voice had risen, sharp enough to draw attention from a few early arriving guests. "Do you know what my mother said when she saw your final dress-fitting photos? What my friends have been saying? I won't be the guy with the fat wife. I deserve better than that." A nearby elderly couple had gasped, hurrying past with embarrassed glances. Sarah had stood frozen, her elaborate dress suddenly feeling like a costume, a joke everyone had been laughing at behind her back. 3 years, she'd whispered. 3 years, and this is what I meant to you. A number on a scale? Don't make this harder than it needs to be. He'd straightened his bow tie, still not meeting her eyes. "I've already called everything off. Your mother can handle the guests. I'll have my lawyer contact you about the deposits and shared expenses." He'd walked away then, leaving her alone among the roses her mother had chosen, their sweet scent turning sickly in the morning air. Sarah had stood there until her feet ached in her new shoes, until her mother found her and dissolved into tears and recriminations, until the murmur of arriving guests turned to shocked whispers and pitying glances. She'd fled, grabbed her purse, ignored her mother's pleas and her bridesmaids' calls, and just ran. Her car had been decorated with "just married" signs and trailing cans, a joke that cut too deep to bear. She'd taken a taxi instead, giving the driver the first address that came to mind, the little coffee shop where she and Thomas had had their first date. Now here she sat, a bride without a wedding, wearing a dress that cost more than 3 months' rent and feeling more worthless than she had in her entire life. Her phone buzzed constantly, messages from family, from friends, probably even from Thomas's mother, who had always looked at her with barely concealed disapproval. The barista kept glancing her way, concern evident in her young face. She'd brought Sarah a free muffin earlier, but it sat untouched on the table, another reminder of all the things she wasn't supposed to want. Maybe he was right? She whispered to her reflection in the coffee shop window. The morning sun highlighted every flaw she'd spent years trying to minimize. The roundness of her cheeks, the soft curve of her chin, the way her arms pressed against the delicate lace sleeves of her dress. The bell above the door chimed, and Sarah ducked her head, not wanting to meet another stranger's pitying gaze. She heard a child's voice, bright and curious. "Daddy, look! A real princess." Marcus Rodriguez's morning began like every other, with the jangle of 2 employee badges knocking together as he hustled his daughter Emma through their morning routine. Construction site badge for day shift, security guard badge for nights. The laminated cards told the story of his life these days. Endless work, barely enough sleep, and precious little time with the one person who mattered most. "Emma Mija, you need to eat something before school." He placed a bowl of cereal in front of his 8-year-old daughter, who was more interested in drawing than breakfast. Dark curls fell over her face as she bent over her sketchbook, tongue poking out in concentration. "Just 5 more minutes, Daddy. I'm almost done with my picture." Marcus glanced at his watch, the cheap digital one that replaced his father's vintage Omega, sold 6 months ago to cover Emma's emergency room. "Visit. We don't have 5 minutes, Princessa. Come on, your teacher won't be happy if you're late again." Emma sighed dramatically, but picked up her spoon. "Ms. Thompson doesn't mind. She says I'm her best student. Best student still needs breakfast." He gulped down his own coffee, grimacing at the bitter taste. Store brand on sale, another small compromise in a life full of them. The morning light caught the silver frame on their kitchen wall, the only photo he had of Emma with her. Mother Maria, 3 years gone now, taken by a drunk driver on a rainy Tuesday evening. Emma had her mother's smile, her artistic talent, her way of seeing beauty in everything. Some days that was a blessing, other days it hurt so much he could barely breathe. "Daddy, you're doing it again." Emma's voice pulled him back. She was watching him with those 2 wise eyes, her mother's eyes. "You're thinking about Mama." "Sorry, Mija." He forced a smile. "Just remembering." "It's okay." She pushed her half-eaten cereal away. "I remember her too. She would like my drawing." Marcus looked at the sketchbook, a rainbow-colored family. Of 3, a tall figure labeled Daddy, a small one labeled Me, and a round figure with wings labeled Mama Angel. His throat tightened. "Yes, she would." He checked his watch again. "Time for school. Got your homework?" The morning rush to school was another carefully choreographed dance, checking homework, finding missing shoes, making sure Emma's lunch was packed. They made it to the drop-off line just as the first bell rang. "Love you, Princesa." He kissed the top of her head. "Abuela will pick you up after school." "Love you too, Daddy." She hesitated at the car door. "Can we get coffee after, like we used to with Mama?" The construction site was waiting. His foreman wouldn't appreciate another late arrival, but Emma's eyes held that hopeful look, the one that made him want to move mountains. "Sure, Mija. Quick stop at Joe's after Abuela picks you up. I'll meet you there before my night shift." Her smile was worth every lost minute of sleep. He watched her skip into school, backpack bouncing, before pulling away from the curb. The construction site was across town, and traffic was already building. His phone buzzed. A text from his mother. "Don't forget Emma's teacher conference next week." Another obligation to juggle, another hour of work to make up. He'd figure it out. He always did. Had to. Single parents didn't get the luxury of falling apart. The 2 badges clinked together again as he parked at the construction site. 8 hours of hauling lumber and reading blueprints ahead, then a quick coffee with Emma, then 8 more hours watching security cameras at the mall. Somewhere in between, he needed to fix the leaky faucet in their bathroom and help Emma with her science project. "One day at a time," he muttered, his mother's favorite saying. One day at a time, until the days turned into something better, until he could give Emma the life she deserved, the one Maria would have wanted for her. He grabbed his hard hat and tool belt, squinting in the morning sun. Maybe today would be that day. Maybe today something would change. Joe's coffee shop was quieter than usual when Marcus pushed open the door, Emma's small hand tucked in his. The familiar bell chime mixed with the soft sound of someone crying, unusual for the normally cheerful cafe. His eyes automatically scanned the room, a habit from his security work, and landed on a woman in a wedding dress, hunched over a table in the corner. "Daddy, look!" Emma whispered, though her excited whisper carried across the quiet space. "A real princess," the woman, in white, startled, quickly wiping her eyes with a crumpled napkin. Even with mascara streaked down her cheeks, there was something striking about her, a gentleness in her features that reminded Marcus of his mother's favorite saint statues. "Emma, honey, not so loud," he murmured. But his daughter was already pulling free of his grip, drawn to the sparkle of sequins and tulle like a magnet. "Are you okay?" Emma asked, approaching the woman's table. "Princesses aren't supposed to cry." The woman let out a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sob. "I'm not a princess, sweetheart, just a silly woman in a white dress. But you look like one." Emma pulled her sketchbook from her backpack. "Can I draw you? I've never seen a real wedding dress before." Marcus stepped forward, ready to apologize for his daughter's forwardness, but something in the woman's face stopped him. The deep sadness in her eyes had lifted slightly, replaced by a flicker of genuine warmth as she looked at Emma. "I'd be honored," she said softly. "I'm Sarah." "I'm Emma, and that's my daddy." Emma was already settling into the opposite chair, flipping to a clean page. "He buys me hot chocolate with extra whipped cream, but only on special days when we can afford it." Marcus winced at his daughter's innocent revelation of their financial situation. "Emma, it's okay," Sarah said, offering him a small smile. "Some days are hot chocolate days and some days aren't. I understand that." There was no pity in her voice, just simple recognition. Marcus found himself relaxing slightly. "Can I get you anything? You look like you could use a fresh coffee." Sarah glanced down at her cold cup, then back up at him with uncertain eyes. "Oh no, I couldn't." "Please, it's the least I can do for Emma commandeering your table." He managed a warm smile. "Besides, looks like you've had the kind of day where a hot drink might help." Fresh tears welled in her eyes, but she blinked them back. "Just black coffee then, thank you." While Emma sketched, her tongue poking out in concentration, Marcus ordered their drinks. When he returned, Sarah was watching his daughter with a soft expression he recognized, the look of someone seeing light after too much darkness. "She's quite talented," Sarah said as he set her coffee down. "She captured the dress's details perfectly." Emma beamed, turning her sketchbook around. The drawing was simple but full of heart. Sarah in her wedding dress, but with a crown of flowers Marcus's daughter had added. "Now you're a real princess," Emma declared, "even if you're sad today." A tear slipped down Sarah's cheek, but she was smiling. "Thank you, Emma. That's the nicest thing anyone has done for me today." Marcus watched as his daughter carefully tore out the page and presented it to Sarah. The woman handled the drawing like it was precious, carefully smoothing it on the table beside her untouched muffin. "You know," Sarah said thoughtfully, "princesses are supposed to share their treats. Would you like half of this? It's too much for me alone." Emma looked up at Marcus questioningly. He nodded, touched by the gentle way Sarah had turned the offer into one that preserved dignity on both sides. As Emma happily divided the muffin, Marcus noticed Sarah's hands fidgeting with her phone, which hadn't stopped buzzing. Without thinking, he offered, "Sometimes the hardest messages can wait until tomorrow." Sarah's shoulders relaxed slightly. "Tomorrow?" she repeated softly. "Yes, maybe tomorrow will be better. That's what Daddy always says," Emma chimed in, mouth full of muffin. "Tomorrow is a new picture. That's why I draw a new one every day." "Out of the mouths of babes," Marcus murmured, and was rewarded with Sarah's first genuine laugh. a warm, rich sound that seemed to brighten the whole cafe. Sarah stared at the house key on the cafe table, its brass surface reflecting the afternoon sunlight. Her phone buzzed again, the 20th call from her mother in the past hour, but she couldn't bring herself to answer. Not yet. "It's not much," Marcus said softly, his work-worn hands wrapped around a fresh cup of coffee. "Just the spare room above the garage. But it's clean, and it's private, and it'll give you time to—" He trailed off, clearly searching for the right words. "To put my life back together," Sarah finished, attempting a weak smile. The kindness in his eyes was almost too much to bear. Emma had fallen asleep in the chair beside them, her sketchbook open to a new drawing, this one showing 3 figures in front of a simple house. Sarah's heart squeezed at the sight. "I couldn't," she started, but Marcus gently cut her off. "Look, I heard enough of your phone conversation earlier." He grimaced apologetically. "Hard not to, in a small cafe. Your ex-fiancé's moving out of your shared apartment, but he's keeping it because his name's on the lease. Your friend Lisa's spare room isn't available until next month. And," he hesitated, "and you're not ready to face your family yet. Am I getting this right?" Sarah nodded mutely, fresh tears threatening. The barista had already closed up around them, leaving them the last customers of the day. Outside, the sky was darkening to purple. "I have to pick up my night shift soon," Marcus continued, his voice careful, measured. "But I can't in good conscience leave you here with nowhere to go. The spare room has its own entrance. You'd have complete privacy, just—" He glanced at Emma. "Just give yourself a few days to breathe, figure things out." Sarah's fingers traced the edge of the key, such a small thing to represent such a monumental decision. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you do this for a stranger?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment, his eyes distant. "After Maria, Emma's mother, passed, people helped us. Sometimes a little kindness." He swallowed hard. "Sometimes it's the difference between breaking and bending." Emma stirred in her sleep, mumbling something about princesses. Sarah looked at the child's peaceful face, then at Marcus's tired but kind eyes. The key felt warm now against her palm. "Just for a few days," she said finally. "And I'll pay—" Marcus shook his head. "We can figure all that out later. Right now, let's just get you somewhere safe." The word safe broke something loose in Sarah's chest. She hadn't felt safe all day, not since Thomas's cruel words had shattered her world on what should have been the happiest morning of her life. Marcus stood, gently gathering Emma in his arms. The little girl stirred but didn't wake, instinctively wrapping her arms around her father's neck. Sarah watched them, remembering Emma's earlier words about hot chocolate days and new pictures. "I have to drop Emma at my mother's before work," Marcus said softly. "I can show you to the room first, unless—" He paused. "Unless you need more time to think about it. No pressure." Sarah looked down at her wedding dress, now wrinkled and coffee-stained. A perfect metaphor, really. But maybe, like Emma's drawing suggested, even a sad princess could find a new story. "No," she said, rising and gathering her few belongings, purse, phone, and the precious drawing Emma had given her. "No, I think I'd like to stop thinking for a little while, if that's okay." Marcus's smile was gentle, understanding. "Sometimes that's the wisest thing we can do." Outside, the summer evening was cooling, stars just beginning to peek through the twilight. Sarah followed Marcus to his car, the key warm in her hand like a promise. Not of happily ever after, she wasn't naive enough for that anymore, but of something simpler and maybe more valuable. A moment to breathe, a safe place to land, and the unexpected kindness of strangers who might not stay strangers for long. The old recipe book sat open on the kitchen counter, its pages worn and splattered with years of loving use. Sarah ran her fingers over the handwritten notes in the margins. "Add more garlic," and "Emma loves this one," written in what she assumed was Maria's flowing script 3 days into her stay, and this simple cookbook had become her anchor. "Something smells amazing." Emma's voice carried up the stairs as the front door slammed. "Daddy, is that spaghetti?" Sarah tensed, still uncertain of her place in this borrowed home. She'd found the recipe book that morning while cleaning her tea. Borrowed space, tucked away in a box of kitchen supplies. The lasagna recipe had practically jumped out at her. Perfect for hard days, the margin note read. Sarah? Marcus's voice was tentative as he appeared in the kitchen doorway, still, in his construction clothes. You didn't have to. I wanted to, she cut in quickly, wiping her hands on the apron she'd found. It's the least I can do after... She gestured vaguely, encompassing everything. The room, their kindness, this strange new reality she was living in. Emma bounded into the kitchen, her eyes wide. You're cooking like Mama used to? The room went still. Sarah's heart caught in her throat, but before she could panic, Marcus stepped forward. Emma, he started, but his daughter was already pulling out a chair at the counter. Can I watch? Mama always let me help. She said the secret ingredient was love. But Daddy says that's silly because you can't measure love in cups. Sarah found herself laughing despite her nerves. Well, your mama was right, but so is your daddy. Sometimes you need both love and proper measurements. Marcus relaxed visibly, leaning against the doorframe. Speaking of measurements, how many homework problems do you have tonight, Mija? Emma groaned dramatically. But I want to help Sarah. Tell you what, Sarah offered, surprising herself with her boldness. You do your homework at the counter here, and I'll teach you my grandmother's secret for perfect garlic bread while you work. The look of pure joy on Emma's face was worth every moment of uncertainty. As the little girl settled with her books, Sarah caught Marcus watching them, an unreadable expression on his tired face. I hope it's okay, she said softly when Emma was absorbed in her math. Using the kitchen, I mean, and the recipe book. More than okay, he replied, his voice rough. It's nice hearing life in here again. The evening settled into a surprisingly comfortable rhythm. Emma worked on her multiplication tables while Sarah taught her about roasting garlic. Marcus showered and changed, emerging in fresh clothes just as the lasagna was ready. This is better than Daddy's, Emma declared around a mouthful of pasta. Emma, Marcus scolded, but his eyes were crinkled with amusement. Well, it is. No offense, Daddy. Sarah felt warmth bloom in her chest, not just from the food, but from this moment, this simple, ordinary moment that felt anything but ordinary. Later, after Emma was in bed and Marcus had left for his night shift, Sarah stood in the quiet kitchen. The recipe book was still open, and she found herself adding her own note in pencil. Emma approved. Double the garlic bread next time. Her phone buzzed. Another message from Thomas. She'd finally listened to his voicemail earlier. Your things are packed. Have someone picked them up by Friday? No apology. No recognition of the life he'd shattered. But standing in this warm kitchen, with the lingering scents of garlic and tomatoes, Sarah realized something. She felt more at home here, in this borrowed space with near strangers, than she had in months of living with Thomas. One day at a time, she whispered to herself, echoing words she'd heard Marcus say to Emma. She closed the recipe book gently, already planning tomorrow's dinner. Sometimes healing started in the smallest ways, with a shared meal, a child's smile, and the simple act of creating something with love. The glow of Sarah's phone screen illuminated her face in the pre-dawn darkness of the garage apartment. She shouldn't have looked at social media, she knew better. But curiosity had gotten the better of her at 4 a.m., and now she couldn't unsee the damage. There it was, splashed across her Facebook feed, a photo from her final dress fitting, posted without her permission. The comments below were brutal. Dodged a bullet, Thomas. No wonder he ran. Who shows up to their own wedding looking like that? Her ex-fiancé's sister had started it, sharing the photo with a lengthy post about standards and self-respect. Thomas himself had liked the post. A soft knock at her door startled her. Sarah? Marcus's voice was gentle. I saw your light on. Early coffee. She quickly wiped her eyes. Just a minute. In the small bathroom, she splashed cold water on her face, avoiding her reflection. When she opened the door, Marcus was waiting with 2 steaming mugs and concerned eyes. "Bad night. Is it that obvious?" She accepted the coffee, wrapping her hands around its warmth. "I recognize the look. Emma has nightmares about her mom sometimes. Coffee helps. Well, hot chocolate in her case." They settled on the small bench. Outside the garage, watching the sky lighten, Sarah's phone buzzed again in her pocket. She ignored it. "Want to talk about it?" She took a shaky breath. "Thomas's family is... They're making sure everyone knows their version of what happened, with photos, comments. It's like they're trying to..." She struggled to find the words. "Justify being cruel?" Marcus suggested. Quietly. "Yeah." She stared into her coffee. "My mom called yesterday, said I should have tried harder, done more cleanses, been more dedicated to the gym." A bitter laugh escaped her. "As if I haven't spent my whole life trying to be smaller." Marcus was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was careful but firm. "Emma's teacher called me in last week. Some kids were teasing her about her accent, said she wasn't really American because she speaks Spanish at home." Sarah looked up, surprised by the change in topic. "You know what I told her?" he continued. "That anyone who needs to make themselves feel bigger by making others feel smaller is telling you everything about them and nothing about you." Fresh tears welled in Sarah's eyes, but these felt different, cleansing somehow. "Emma has your drawings posted all over her room," Marcus said softly. "She tells everyone about the princess who makes the best garlic bread in the world. That's what she sees when she looks at you. Maybe that's worth more than what people who don't know you think they see." The sun was rising properly now, painting the sky in pinks and golds. Sarah's phone buzzed again, but this time she pulled it out and turned it off completely. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what? For seeing me, just me." Their coffee had grown cold, but neither seemed to notice. In the house, they could hear Emma starting to stir, calling for her daddy to help with her hair. "I should..." Marcus gestured toward the house. "Go," Sarah smiled. "I'll make breakfast." He paused at the door. "Sarah, those people, they don't deserve space in your story anymore." As she watched him head inside to help Emma prepare for school, Sarah felt something shift inside her. The cruel comments still hurt, but they seemed smaller somehow. Less important than Emma's drawings, than Marcus's quiet wisdom, than the simple act of making breakfast for people who saw her as more than a number on a scale. She pulled out her phone one last time, not to check social media, but to delete the apps entirely. It was time to start a new story, one measured not in pounds or likes, but in morning coffees, children's drawings, and the gentle recognition of being truly seen. "My Family" by Emma Rodriguez, Sarah read from the construction paper title, her heart catching at the crayon illustrations below. The school project was spread across the kitchen table, covered in glitter and hope in equal measure. Emma bounced excitedly in her chair. "Do you like it? Miss Thompson said we could draw our whole family, not just the people who live with us. See?" Her small finger pointed to each figure. "That's Daddy and Abuela and Mama in heaven with her angel wings, and you making your special lasagna." Sarah's fingers trembled as they hovered over her own image, drawn with the same care and love as the others. 2 weeks had transformed her from sad princess to family member in Emma's earnest artwork. "It's beautiful, sweetheart," she managed, though her throat felt tight. "But maybe you should check with your daddy first about including me." "Check. With me about what?" Marcus appeared in the doorway, still in his construction gear, earlier than usual. "Daddy!" Emma ran to hug him, leaving dusty handprints on his already dirty jeans. "I drew our family for school. Come see." Sarah watched Marcus's face carefully as he examined the project. His expression softened at Maria's angel figure, then shifted to something more complex when he saw Sarah's inclusion. "What do you think?" Emma asked, her voice suddenly uncertain. "Is it okay that I put Sarah? Miss Thompson said family is about love, not just about who's related." Marcus knelt beside his daughter, his voice gentle. "Miss Thompson is very wise. And this is beautiful, Miha. He glanced up at Sarah, something warm in his eyes. I think it's perfect. The moment stretched, filled with unspoken meanings. Then Emma sneezed, sending glitter cascading everywhere, and they all burst out laughing. I'll get the vacuum, Sarah offered, grateful for the excuse to move, to break the intensity of whatever had just passed between her and Marcus. No, let me, he said, reaching for it at the same time. Their hands brushed, and Sarah felt heat rush to her cheeks. Marcus cleared his throat. I mean, you're already covered in glitter. So are you now, she pointed out, noticing the sparkles transferred from Emma's hug. Group sparkles, Emma declared, throwing another handful of glitter in the air. Emma, they both exclaimed, but they were laughing again. Later, after Emma was in bed and the kitchen was mostly glitter-free, Sarah found Marcus staring at the family portrait. I'm sorry if it makes you uncomfortable, she said softly. I can talk to her about it. No, he cut in quickly. No, it's good. She hasn't drawn our families since Maria died. Wouldn't even try. But now, he traced the angel figure gently, now she can see all of it. The love we lost, the love we still have, the love that... He stopped, looking almost shy. The love that sometimes finds you when you least expect it. Sarah's heart thundered in her chest. Marcus, I know it's too soon, he said quickly. For both of us, and complicated. But Emma's right about one thing. Family is about love, and you've brought that back into our home, whether you meant to or not. A tear slipped down Sarah's cheek. You brought it back into my life first. Both of you did. They stood in comfortable silence, looking at Emma's drawing. Outside, crickets chirped their evening symphony. Inside, something delicate and precious was taking root, growing stronger with each shared meal, each bedtime story, each moment of quiet understanding. Keep the drawing, Marcus said finally. I'll help her make another copy for school. Sarah nodded, unable to speak past the emotion in her throat. As she carefully lifted the glitter-strewn paper, a small note fell from the back. In Emma's careful handwriting, it read, Sometimes the best families are the ones we choose. Out of the mouths of babes, indeed. The photograph was faded at the edges, worn from years of handling. Sarah found it while helping Emma organize her desk. Maria, young and radiant, holding a newborn Emma in the hospital. Marcus stood beside them, his face full of a joy so pure it made Sarah's heart ache. I was really small, Emma said, peering over Sarah's shoulder. Daddy says I was early. That's why they were scared. Sarah carefully set the photo down. Scared? But Mama was brave. She used to tell me I got my bravery from her. Emma's small fingers traced her mother's face in the picture. Sometimes I forget what she sounded like. The sound of... The front door closing announced Marcus's return from his evening security shift. Emma ran to greet him, leaving Sarah alone with the photograph and an ache in her chest that wasn't entirely her own. Found this, she said softly when Marcus appeared in the doorway. We were organizing. His face did something complicated when he saw the photo. That was a tough day. Best day too, but he sat heavily in Emma's desk chair. Maria was only 30 weeks along. Nothing we could do to stop the labor. Sarah sat on the edge of Emma's bed, giving him space to remember. She was so small. He continued, his voice distant. Emma, I mean. Less than 3 pounds. Maria couldn't even hold her at first. She was in the NICU for 6 weeks. But Maria sat there every day, talking to her through the incubator, singing. She was always so sure Emma would be fine. She was right. Yeah, Marcus smiled sadly. She usually was, even at the end. She made me promise to be happy. Again someday. I thought she was being dramatic, you know. It was just a normal Tuesday. She was just driving to the store. His voice cracked. Without thinking, Sarah reached for his hand. He gripped it like an anchor. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. They sat in silence for a moment, hands linked, while evening shadows lengthened across Emma's colorful room. Your turn, Marcus said finally, his thumb brushing across her knuckles. My turn to talk about what hurts. I've seen how you avoid mirrors. How you tense up when Emma asks about the wedding. Sarah's first instinct was to pull away, but his grip was warm, steady, safe. I was 12, she said, surprising herself. The first time someone called me fat, my dance teacher actually, said I was too heavy for partner lifts. She laughed bitterly. I quit dancing that day, started my first diet the next week. Sarah, it never stopped. The diets, the comments, the constant feeling of not being quite enough. Thomas, she swallowed hard. Thomas was just the last in a long line of people telling me I needed to be less, take up less space, want less. And what do you want? Marcus's question was gentle, but direct. I want... She looked at the photo of Maria, so vibrantly herself. I want to be brave, like Emma says her mama was, brave enough to take up exactly the space I meant to take up. You already are. His voice was firm. The way you walked away from someone who couldn't see your worth, the way you're rebuilding your life, the way you love Emma without hesitation, even though it would be easier to keep your distance. Fresh tears spilled down Sarah's cheeks. I'm scared, she admitted. Not of being alone. I'm scared of hoping again, of trusting that someone could... She gestured vaguely at herself. Love you? Marcus finished softly. Exactly as you are. Their eyes met in the dimming light. Something electric passed between them, full of possibility and terror in equal measure. A crash from the kitchen broke the moment, followed by Emma's voice. I'm okay, but we might need more paper towels. They laughed, the tension breaking. Marcus squeezed her hand once more before letting go. Duty calls. But at the door he paused. Sarah, Maria taught me something important. Life's too short not to be brave. As she watched him go, Sarah looked again at the photograph. Maria's smile seemed to hold a secret, like she somehow knew that years later her family would find a way to be whole again. Different, but whole. The birthday cake recipe was propped against the kitchen window. Maria's handwriting faded, but still legible. Emma's favorite chocolate cloud cake. Sarah had found it tucked into the family recipe book, complete with little notes about Emma's preferences. Extra sprinkles and chocolate clouds need white frosting to show up in the sky. Is it like Mama's? Emma asked, perched on a kitchen stool, watching Sarah fold whipped cream into the chocolate mixture. The morning sun caught the party decorations they'd hung together, sparkly streamers and paper stars that transformed the modest kitchen into something magical. I followed her recipe exactly, Sarah answered, trying to keep her voice steady. Even the secret ingredient. Love? Emma's eyes sparkled. Love, Sarah confirmed, dabbing a spot of chocolate on Emma's nose. The doorbell rang, and Emma jumped down. That's probably Abuela. She's always early. Sarah's hands trembled slightly as she continued working on the cake. Marcus's mother had been politely distant during their previous brief encounters, and today would be their first real interaction. Sarah! Marcus's voice was soft behind her. You don't have to do all this. She turned to find him watching her with that look that made her heart flutter. I want to, she said. Emma deserves a perfect birthday. You've been up since dawn. Couldn't sleep. She gestured at the decorations, the snacks, the half-finished cake. Is it too much? I know I'm not trying to replace... Sarah. He stepped closer, his hand catching hers. You're not replacing anyone. You're just being you. And that's... He swallowed. That's exactly what we need. Voices approached the kitchen. Emma chattering rapidly in Spanish. Her grandmother responding warmly. Sarah started to pull her hand away, but Marcus held on. Buenos dias, his mother said from the doorway, her eyes taking in everything. The decorations, the joined hands, the cake that was so clearly Maria's recipe. Abuela, look! Emma bounced excitedly. Sarah's making Mama's special cake. And we hung stars, and Sarah let me help with the frosting, and... Mia, her grandmother interrupted gently, why don't you show me the dress you picked for your party? Once Emma had dragged her grandmother away, Sarah let out a shaky breath. She hates me. She's protective, Marcus corrected, but she'll see what Emma and I see. The morning flew by in a blur of preparations. More guests arrived. Emma's friends from school, their parents, Marcus's colleagues. Sarah found herself at the center of it all, directing games, serving snacks, making sure every child felt included. "You're good at this," Marcus's mother said quietly, appearing beside her as Sarah cut more fruit for the snack table. It was the first time she'd spoken directly to Sarah all day. "I hope so," Sarah replied honestly. "I want to be." The older woman was quiet for a moment. Maria used to say that love isn't about filling empty spaces. It's about creating new ones. Before Sarah could respond, it was time for the cake. As everyone gathered to sing, Sarah hung back, watching Emma's face glow in the candlelight. Marcus stood behind his daughter, but his eyes found Sarah's across the room. After the cake was served and the party was winding down, Sarah escaped to the kitchen for a moment of quiet. The recipe card sat on the counter, smudged now with new fingerprints alongside the old. "You know what Emma told me?" Marcus's mother appeared in the doorway. "She said you didn't try to copy Maria's cake exactly, that you added extra clouds because more love means more clouds." Sarah held her breath. "Maria would have liked that," the older woman said softly. Then she was gone, leaving Sarah with tears in her eyes and a warmth in her chest that had nothing to do with the summer heat. Later, after the last guest had left and Emma had fallen asleep surrounded by new toys, Marcus found Sarah cleaning up in the kitchen. "You made her so happy today," he said, helping her wrap leftover cake. "She makes it easy." Sarah smiled, then felt it fade. "Marcus, I need to tell you something." He set down the cake knife, turning to face her fully. "What is it?" "I got a job offer in the city." She twisted her hands together. "The catering company I interviewed with last week. They want me to start as their event coordinator." "Sarah, that's wonderful." "Is it?" She looked up at him. "It means I should probably start looking for my own place. I can't keep living in your garage apartment forever." Marcus was very still. "What if—" He stepped closer. "What if forever wasn't out of the question?" The air between them crackled with possibility. Sarah's heart hammered against her ribs as Marcus slowly, carefully, raised his hand to cup her cheek. "What are you saying?" she whispered. Instead of answering, he kissed her. It was gentle, questioning, full of promise. When they parted, Sarah could see her own hope reflected in his eyes. "Stay," he said simply. "Not in the garage apartment. Just stay." From upstairs came the sound of Emma's sleepy voice calling for a glass of water. They broke apart, laughing softly. "To be continued?" Sarah suggested. Marcus caught her hand, pressing a kiss to her palm. "Definitely to be continued." The eviction notice lay stark and official on the kitchen table, its threatening language at odds with the cheerful breakfast dishes still waiting to be cleared. Marcus stared at it as if willing the words to change. His work-roughened hands clenched into fists. "They can't just close the whole site," he said for the third time. 200 workers, just done. No warning. Sarah reached across the table, covering his hand with hers. The morning sun that usually made their kitchen feel so warm now seemed harsh, unforgiving. "What about the security job?" she asked, softly. "Part-time hours aren't enough for the mortgage, and with property taxes due—" He pulled his hand away, running it through his hair. "I should have saved more, should have seen this coming." "Daddy?" Emma stood in the doorway, still in her pajamas, clutching her favorite stuffed unicorn. "Why aren't you at work?" Marcus's face transformed, forcing a smile. "Just taking a day off, mija. How about pancakes?" But Emma, with a child's unerring instinct for trouble, moved closer to the table. "What's that paper? Why does it make you sad?" Sarah quickly folded the notice, tucking it away. "Your daddy's just tired, sweetheart. Why don't you help me make breakfast?" As they mixed pancake batter, Sarah watched Marcus step outside to make calls. Through the window, she could see the defeated slump of his shoulders, the way he paced like a caged animal. "Is Daddy going to be okay?" Emma whispered, abandoning her usual enthusiasm for cooking. Sarah pulled her close, breathing in the sweet scent of her apple shampoo. Of course he is. We all are. Sometimes grown-ups just have to solve big puzzles. That's all. Like when you had to find a new home. Emma's words were innocent but hit like an arrow. When your mean boyfriend made you sad. Sarah swallowed hard. Something like that. But you know what? That turned out to be a good thing, didn't it? Because it brought me to you and your daddy. Emma nodded solemnly. Maybe Daddy's puzzle will bring something good, too. The front door opened and closed. Marcus's footsteps were heavy on the hardwood. Emma, why don't you go get dressed? Sarah suggested. We'll finish the pancakes in a minute. Once Emma was upstairs, Sarah turned to Marcus. Talk to me. The bank won't extend the loan. His voice was flat. 3 missed payments is their limit. We have 30 days. Okay. Sarah took a deep breath. Then we have 30 days to figure this out. My new job starts next week. It's not enough for the whole mortgage, but... No. Marcus cut her off. I can't ask you to... You're not asking. I'm offering. We're... She hesitated, then pressed on. We're family now, aren't we? That's what you said last week. He looked at her then, really looked at her, and some of the tension left his face. Sarah, let me help. Please. You and Emma gave me a home when I had nothing. Let me return that gift. The sound of Emma's footsteps on the stairs broke the moment. She bounded into the kitchen, wearing a mismatched outfit and a determined expression. I can help too, she declared. I can sell my old toys. And my art. Ms. Thompson says my drawings are really good. Marcus made a choked sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. He knelt down, pulling Emma into a fierce hug. No selling your art, Mija, but thank you. Sarah watched them, her heart full of love and fear in equal measure. The eviction notice seemed to pulse in her pocket like a ticking clock. 30 days to save their home. 30 days to prove that their fragile happiness wasn't just a temporary refuge. We'll figure it out, she said firmly, joining their hug. Together. Emma wiggled between them, her small face serious. Can we still have pancakes? Mama always said pancakes make hard days better. Your mama was very wise, Sarah said, meeting Marcus's eyes over their daughter's head. The word our hung unspoken between them. Marcus nodded slowly, some of his fight returning. Pancakes first, then we make a plan. The business plan was spread across their kitchen table, written in Sarah's neat handwriting on the back of Emma's old school papers. It wasn't fancy, no sophisticated spreadsheets or professional formatting, but the numbers added up. They had to. Sweet, comfort catering and events, Marcus read aloud, his finger tracing the improvised logo Sarah had sketched. You really think we could do this? Sarah nodded, trying to contain her excitement. The catering company I was supposed to work for. Their head chef just quit. They're scrambling to fill upcoming events. She pulled out her phone, showing him the desperate emails. They have 3 weddings next month alone, but we don't have any capital for startup costs, Marcus pointed out, though she could see hope beginning to replace the defeat in his eyes. We have my savings from the cancelled wedding. Sarah took a deep breath. Your construction skills. The old garage could be converted into a commercial kitchen. I already checked the zoning laws. Emma, who had been quietly coloring nearby, perked up. Can I help? I can be the taste tester. Sarah laughed, reaching over to ruffle her hair. Best job in the business. Marcus was studying the numbers again. These delivery rates are competitive because we'll be working from home, not paying commercial rent. Sarah leaned forward. Marcus, I know it's a risk, but I also know food. It's the one thing I've always been good at, even when, she swallowed, even when I was being told I shouldn't love it. Understanding softened his features. He reached for her hand across the table, a gesture that had become as natural as breathing. Tell me more, he said. The plan poured out of her. All the details she'd been refining since the eviction notice arrived. They'd start with the weddings the catering company couldn't handle, building a reputation. Marcus's construction skills would save them thousands in renovation costs. His mother's church group had already expressed interest in their services after tasting Sarah's cooking at Emma's party. And look, she pulled out another paper. The bank loan officer. Her daughter's getting married in December. She loved the sample menu I sent. Said if we can handle these first few events successfully, she'll reconsider our loan application. Marcus whistled softly. You've thought of everything. Not everything. Sarah bit her lip. We'd be partners. Equals. I know it's your house. Your garage, but... Our house, he corrected quietly. Our garage, for a future. He glanced at Emma, who was now drawing what appeared to be a cake with legs. Our family. The word settled around them like a warm blanket. Sarah blinked back tears. Besides, Marcus continued, a smile tugging at his lips, what kind of idiot would I be to turn down a partnership with the woman who makes, and I quote, from Mrs. Garcia next door, the best empanadas this side of heaven? Can I be a partner too? Emma asked, holding up her drawing. Look, I designed our first cake. Sarah studied the whimsical creation, complete with rainbow sprinkles and what appeared to be a superhero cape. That's actually not bad. We could do specialty cakes for kids' parties. With capes? Marcus raised an eyebrow. Why not? Sarah felt laughter bubbling up. We're already taking crazy chances. What's one more? He stood, pulling her up with him. Then let's do it. All of it. Emma jumped up too, wrapping her arms around them both. We're gonna make the best cakes ever. With love and sprinkles and proper business licenses, Marcus added, making Sarah snort. Later, after Emma was in bed, they sat on the porch swing, looking at the garage that would soon become their kitchen. The moon cast long shadows across the yard, but for once the darkness didn't feel threatening. Thank you, Marcus said softly. For what? For not giving up on us. For seeing possibility instead of problems. He turned to face her. For loving us enough to risk everything. Sarah thought about the business plan waiting inside, about the leap they were about to take. Some things are worth the risk. His kiss tasted like promise and possibility, like a future she never dared imagine, but now couldn't imagine living without. The apology letter arrived on a Tuesday, exactly 3 months after the wedding that never was. Sarah found it mixed in with their new business permits, Thomas's precise handwriting stark against the crisp white envelope. You don't have to. Read it, Marcus said, watching her turn the envelope over and over in her hands. The autumn breeze, through the newly renovated kitchen window, carried the scent of fresh paint and possibility. I know, she traced the return address, but maybe I need to. Emma was at school. The kitchen was between catering prep sessions, and the quiet felt suddenly heavy with anticipation. Sarah broke the seal. Dear Sarah, I've been in therapy. I know now that what I did was cruel and inexcusable. My own insecurities and my family's toxic expectations led me to hurt the one person who truly loved me. I've changed. I miss you. I miss us. The company is expanding. I've been promoted to regional director. We could have the life we planned, but better this time. I promise to love you exactly as you are. Please meet me. Just to talk. Thomas. Marcus had moved to the sink, giving her privacy while pretending to wash already clean dishes. His shoulders were tense. He's in therapy, Sarah said softly. Good for him. Marcus's voice was carefully neutral. He says he's changed. The dish Marcus was holding clinked too loudly against the sink. Sarah stood, crossing to him and pressing her forehead between his shoulder blades. I'm not going back to him, she whispered. His whole body relaxed. I wouldn't blame you if you wanted to talk to him. He's offering the life you planned. No. Sarah turned him to face her. He's offering the life he planned. Big house, corporate wife, country club membership, everything measured and managed, including me. And what do you want? Before she could answer, the door chime they'd installed for the catering business rang. Sarah froze at the familiar silhouette through the frosted glass. Thomas stood in their doorway, immaculate in his business suit, holding a bouquet of roses, the exact kind he'd chosen for their wedding. Sarah, His practiced smile faltered as he took in Marcus's protective stance beside her. "I hope to catch you alone." "This is my home," Sarah said firmly, "and this is Marcus, my partner." "Partner?" Thomas's gaze swept the kitchen, taking in the commercial equipment, the calendar of upcoming events, the children's drawings pinned proudly to the bulletin board. "I heard rumors you were working in food service, but surely this isn't what you really want." The old Sarah would have shrunk under his subtle disapproval, but that Sarah hadn't known what it felt like to be truly loved, to be valued for exactly who she was. "Actually," she stepped closer to Marcus, drawing strength from his solid presence, "this is exactly what I want. All of it. All of—" Thomas trailed off as Emma's voice carried from the front yard. "Sarah, Daddy, Abuela, let me get ice cream after school," and Emma bounded in, stopping short at the sight of the stranger. "Who are you?" Thomas stared at the child, understanding dawning on his face. "You're living with them? Playing house with some random single father? That's enough." Marcus's voice was quiet, but carried an edge of steel. "I think you should leave." "Sarah," Thomas tried one last time, "think about what you're throwing away. We had plans, a future." Sarah looked around the kitchen, at the space she and Marcus had built together, at Emma's confused but trusting face, at the life that had grown from the ashes of Thomas's rejection. "I have plans," she said. "I have a future, one where I don't have to make myself smaller to fit someone else's vision. The Sarah I knew, the Sarah you knew doesn't exist anymore." She smiled, feeling truly free. She stopped existing the moment she realized she deserved better than waiting for someone else's approval. After Thomas left, the roses abandoned on their doorstep, Emma hugged Sarah tight. "Was he the mean boyfriend?" "Yes, sweetie. But he can't make you sad anymore, right? Because you have us now?" Marcus wrapped his arms around them both. "And we have her." That evening, Sarah took Thomas's letter and roses to their fire pit. As she watched them burn, she felt the last weights of her old life falling away. Marcus joined her, wordlessly offering a glass of wine. "No regrets?" he asked. Sarah thought of the calendar full of bookings, the way Emma's face lit up when they baked together, the love that filled every corner of their unconventional home. Not a single one. The first official catering contract sat framed on their office wall, a testament to how far they'd come. Sarah straightened it absently as she fielded calls for their now-booked holiday season. Their tiny home office, carved from a corner of the converted garage, hummed with activity. "Yes, Mrs. Chen, we can absolutely do a gluten-free option for the Christmas party." "No, there's no extra charge for that. Of course, we believe everyone should be able to enjoy—" She caught Marcus's smile as he passed by with a stack of invoices. Through the window, she could see Emma doing her homework at their new patio set, bought with the proceeds from their first big wedding job. The fall sunshine caught the highlights in her dark hair, so like her father's. "Another booking?" Marcus asked after she hung up. "The Chinese Cultural Center's Christmas fundraiser. Apparently, Mrs. Garcia has been showing off photos of her daughter's wedding cake to everyone at her mahjong group." He wrapped his arms around her from behind, both of them watching Emma through the window. "Look what you built." "What we built," she corrected, leaning back against him. "I couldn't have done any of this without you." "Funny." He pressed a kiss to her temple. "I was about to say the same thing." The ring of Emma's school bell chimed from her tablet, their signal for her designated homework time ending. She bounded into the office, waving a paper. "Look, I got an A on my math test. Can I help with the baking now?" Sarah exchanged a glance with Marcus. They had a strict homework-first policy, but Emma had been begging to learn their new cranberry orange scone recipe. "All right, mi amor," Marcus said, "but safety rules first." I know. Hair tied back, hands washed. Listen to Sarah's instructions." Emma was already running to the kitchen, her excitement palpable. Sarah followed more slowly, savoring the comfort of their daily routine. The kitchen gleamed with professional equipment. Now, but they'd kept the family touches. Emma's artwork, Marcus's mother's hand-embroidered towels, the recipe book that had started it all. As she helped Emma measure ingredients, Sarah's phone buzzed. A text from Thomas. "I miss you. The offer still stands." Without hesitation, she deleted it and blocked his number. The Sarah who might have been tempted by his promises didn't exist anymore. That Sarah hadn't known that real love felt like this, like teaching a child to fold cranberries into scone dough, like building a business from scratch with someone who believed in her, like finally feeling at home in her own skin. "Sarah?" Emma's voice pulled her back. "Is this enough orange zest?" "Perfect." She smiled, pushing thoughts of Thomas aside. "You're becoming quite the baker." "Just like you," Emma beamed. "Miss Thompson asked if we could do cupcakes for the school fair. I told her you make the best ones in the whole world." "Speaking of the school fair," Marcus appeared in the doorway, "the PTA meeting minutes just came in. They want to discuss our bid for the spring carnival catering." Sarah felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the ovens. 6 months ago, she'd been planning a wedding to a man who wanted her to be less. Now she was building a life where she could be more herself, more loved, more fulfilled. "Earth to Sarah," Emma giggled, waving flower-covered hands. "You're doing that thing again where you get all dreamy." "Just thinking about how lucky I am," Sarah said, pulling her close despite the flower. "We're the lucky ones," Marcus said softly. The oven timer chimed, and Sarah moved to check their latest test batch. The scones were perfect, golden brown, and filling the kitchen with the scent of citrus and possibility. "Daddy," Emma said seriously, licking batter from a spoon, "when are you going to ask Sarah to marry you for real?" Marcus choked on his coffee. Sarah nearly dropped the baking sheet. "Emma!" Marcus sputtered, but their daughter just shrugged. "What?" "Abuela says you're being too slow. She says good love shouldn't wait." Sarah carefully set down the scones, her heart thundering. When she turned, Marcus was watching her with an expression that made her breath catch. "Your abuela," he said slowly, "might have a point." The moment stretched, full of promise, until Emma's dramatic sigh broke the tension. "Grown-ups are so complicated," she declared. "Can we eat the scones now?" Their laughter filled the kitchen, but the look that passed between Sarah and Marcus held a question and an answer that would wait for the perfect moment to be spoken aloud. The handmade Christmas ornament caught the light as Emma carefully hung it on the tree, a clay star painted in swirls of gold and white, with "Our First Christmas, Emma, Daddy, and Sarah," written in her careful schoolgirl script. "Perfect," Sarah said, adjusting a branch to showcase the ornament better. The living room smelled of pine and cinnamon, and the gentle scratch of Christmas music on Maria's old vinyl player filled the air with nostalgia. "Mama would have loved this," Emma said suddenly, fingering another ornament, a faded paper angel that Maria had made years ago. She always said Christmas is for making new memories with the people you love. Marcus, untangling a string of lights nearby, went still. Sarah held her breath, but Emma continued cheerfully. "And now we have more people to love, Sarah and Abuela and all our new friends from the business." She reached for another ornament, this one from their first successful wedding catering job. "Plus, we have the best Christmas cookies in the whole neighborhood." "That we do, mija." Marcus's voice was rough with emotion. He caught Sarah's eye over their daughter's head, his smile soft and full of meaning. The word "our" had stopped, making Sarah's heart skip. It felt natural now, right? The doorbell rang and Emma raced to answer it. "Abuela's here!" Marcus's mother entered in a flurry of shopping bags and excited Spanish, pulling Sarah into a hug before even greeting her son. The transformation in their relationship over the past months still amazed Sarah, from cautious acceptance to genuine affection. "I brought the ingredients for tamales," she announced. "Sarah, mijija, you must learn the family recipe. It's tradition." Sarah blinked back sudden tears. "Mijija, my daughter." The casual endearment meant everything. The kitchen soon became a whirlwind of activity. Marcus's mother directed them all in the art of tamale making, sharing stories of Christmases past as they worked. Emma sat on a stool, carefully spreading mesa on corn husks, while Sarah and Marcus prepared the filling. Maria learned this recipe in one day, Abuela recalled, her hands never stopping their skilled movement. She was so determined to be part of the family tradition. Instead of the usual pain, the mention of Maria brought warm smiles. She was part of their story. Not a shadow to fear, but a light that had helped guide them here. Sarah makes them even better than I did, Emma declared loyally, face smudged with mesa. Different, not better, Sarah corrected gently. Every family has their own special way. And now you have 2 families worth of special, Marcus added, stealing a bite of filling and earning a playful swat from his mother. Later, after Emma was in bed and Abuela had gone home with promises to return tomorrow, Sarah and Marcus sat on the couch, admiring their tree. The ornaments told their story, Maria's angels watching over Emma's artwork, mixing with mementos from their growing business and new life together. I have something for you, Marcus said suddenly. An early Christmas gift. He pulled an envelope from behind a cushion. Inside was a legal document, adoption papers. Marcus! Sarah's hand flew to her mouth. Only if you want to, he said quickly. But Emma's been asking, and I thought, you're already her mother in all the ways that matter. But Maria will always be her mama. Marcus took her hands in his. This isn't about replacing anyone. It's about making official what's already in our hearts. Emma would have 2 mothers who loved her. What could be better than that? Sarah looked at the Christmas tree, at the star Emma had made, declaring them a family. At all the pieces of their past and present woven together into something beautiful and new. Are you sure? She whispered. Marcus pulled her close. I've never been more sure of anything. Well, maybe one other thing, but that's tomorrow's surprise. Sarah's heart leapt. Could he mean? But for now, she simply curled into his embrace, watching their Christmas tree sparkle with promise. Tomorrow would bring what it would bring. Tonight was for savoring this moment, this perfect, ordinary, extraordinary moment of being home. The ring wasn't what anyone would call impressive, a simple silver band with a small moonstone instead of a diamond. Marcus had found it at the local artisan market, and something about its quiet beauty had reminded him of Sarah. Now it sat in his pocket, feeling heavier than its delicate size would suggest. "Everything's ready, Daddy," Emma whispered loudly from the kitchen. She'd been his eager accomplice in planning this moment, keeping Sarah busy with Christmas cookie baking while Marcus transformed their backyard. He checked his watch. Sarah would be finishing their last catering delivery of the season right about now. The timing had to be perfect. "Did you put Mama's letter in the box?" Emma asked, bouncing on her toes. Marcus touched his pocket, where Maria's letter sat beside the ring. He'd found it while cleaning out the attic last spring, tucked away in a box of Emma's baby things. "Take care of our girls," she'd written, "and when love finds you again, don't be afraid to grab it with both hands. It's there, mija," he kissed, the top of Emma's head. "Ready for your part?" She nodded solemnly. They'd practiced her role all week, the perfect excuse to get Sarah into the backyard at just the right moment. The sound of Sarah's car in the driveway sent Emma scampering into position. Marcus's heart thundered as he heard the front door open. "I'm home," Sarah called. "The Hanson wedding was perfect. You should have seen their faces when they saw the cake." "Sarah," Emma's voice carried the perfect note of urgency. "Quick, come see what happened to the garden." What's wrong?" Sarah's footsteps hurried through the house. When she stepped into the backyard, she stopped short. The evening air was crisp with winter, but the space glowed warm and magical. Marcus had strung lights in all the trees, their soft radiance reflecting off dozens of hanging crystals, each one catching and scattering light like stars brought down to earth. In the center of it all stood Marcus and Emma, both grinning. "What is all this?" Sarah breathed. Emma stepped forward, holding out a small book she'd made in art class. "First, you have to read our story." Sarah accepted the handmade book. Its cover decorated with glitter and hearts. As she opened it, her eyes filled with tears. "Once upon a time," she read aloud, "there was a sad princess who thought she would never find love. But then she met a daddy and his little girl, who showed her that real love doesn't care what you look like or how many cookies you eat." Each page featured Emma's artwork. Sarah in her wedding dress that first day, their first family dinner, baking sessions, the business opening, their whole story, seen through the eyes of a child who had helped heal all their hearts. On the last page, Emma had drawn their future, a family portrait with "happily ever after" written in careful letters. The question mark made Sarah laugh, even as she wiped away tears. That was Marcus's cue. He stepped forward, taking the book gently from her hands and passing it to Emma. Then he got down on one knee. "Sarah," his voice shook slightly, "when you came into our lives, you didn't just find refuge, you gave it. You showed me that love isn't about filling an empty space. It's about creating new spaces, bigger ones, with room for all our past and present and future." He pulled out Maria's letter, holding it out. Even Maria knew. She knew that love grows, that hearts expand, that family isn't about replacing, but about adding. Sarah read the letter with trembling hands, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. "So," Marcus continued, drawing out the ring, "with our daughter's blessing, and maybe even a little of Maria's, I'm asking, Sarah Mitchell, will you marry us? Will you keep building this beautiful, messy, perfect life with us?" The moonstone caught the light from the trees, sending ribbons of color dancing across Sarah's face as she looked at the ring. It wasn't large or flashy. It wasn't the sort of ring Thomas would have chosen. It was simply perfectly them. "Yes," she whispered, then louder. "Yes!" Emma launched herself at them both as Marcus slipped the ring onto Sarah's finger. They tumbled together into a group hug, laughing and crying. "Does this mean I can call you Mom for real now?" Emma asked hopefully. Sarah gathered her close. "Sweetheart, you can call me whatever feels right in your heart. I'll always be here, loving you, no matter what name you use." Above them, the bare crystal scattered light made their own private constellation, marking this moment when their family became official in all the ways that mattered. The new family portrait sat propped against their wedding cake. Not a formal studio photo, but a candid shot caught by their photographer during the ceremony preparations. In it, Sarah and Emma were both still in their robes, heads bent together, as they decorated cookies for the reception. Marcus had walked in at just the right moment, and the camera captured their shared laughter, the flower in their hair, the pure joy radiating from all three faces. "That's the one," Sarah had said when they saw it. "That's us." Now, as evening settled over their backyard wedding reception, the photo seemed to glow with its own light. They'd transformed the same space where Marcus proposed into an intimate celebration area with their own catering team, now expanded to include 3 full-time employees handling everything. "It's perfect," Emma declared, twirling in her junior bridesmaid dress, "just like in my drawing." She pointed to the framed picture hanging nearby, her original artwork of their family from that first day, now accompanied by her latest creation, showing their wedding. The progression between the 2 drawings told their whole story. "Better than perfect," Marcus said, pulling Sarah close. She was radiant in her simple dress, designed for comfort and dancing and being exactly who she was. No corsets, no crash diets, no trying to be something she wasn't. Abuela appeared with tears in her eyes, holding a special gift, a delicate gold locket that had belonged to Maria. "For Emma," she said in Spanish, "so she can carry both her mothers close to her heart." Inside were 2 pictures, Maria holding newborn Emma, and Sarah helping Emma with her wedding hairstyle that morning. The past and present, side by side where they belonged. Sarah knelt to help Emma put it on, both of them crying happy tears. "Your mama is so proud of you, sweetheart, and so am I." The reception flowed around them like a warm embrace. Their small group of guests, chosen family rather than obligatory invites, filled the space with love and laughter. Mrs. Garcia from next door danced with the bank loan officer who had given them their second chance. Emma's teacher caught the bouquet and blushed when Marcus's cousin winked at her. The cake was their own creation, of course. They'd worked on it together, all three of them. Sarah's recipes, Marcus's steady hands for the structural elements, and Emma's artistic vision guiding the design. Like their family, it was a beautiful collaboration. "Speech!" someone called out, as the evening softened into dusk. Marcus stood, holding his glass high. "A year ago," he began, "my daughter drew a picture of a sad princess and told me everyone deserves love. She was right, but she didn't know she was drawing our future." He smiled at Sarah. "Some people might say our story happened too fast, that love like this needs more time. But when you find your missing piece, the puzzle just fits." Emma chimed in, making everyone laugh. "Exactly." Marcus pulled both his girls close. "To the family we were, the family we are, and all the love still to come." Later, as their first dance wound down, Sarah noticed Emma showing the newest generation of her artwork to a group of admirers, drawings of their upcoming honeymoon trip, complete with a detailed rendering of the small beach cottage they'd rented. "She's already planning our next chapter," Sarah murmured against Marcus's chest. "Speaking of next chapters," he twirled her gently, "the adoption papers went through this morning. I was waiting for the right moment to tell you." Sarah's heart soared. "So it's all official, everything?" "Everything." He kissed her softly. "Wife, mother, partner, love of my life, all the pieces of you exactly as you are." The fairy lights twinkled above them like stars, and the evening air carried the scent of their wedding flowers. Not roses this time, but wildflowers, beautiful in their natural, untamed way, just like their love story. Emma rushed over to join their dance, fitting perfectly between them. Together they swayed under the stars, not three separate people anymore, but one family, bound by choice and love, and the kind of magic that happens when you're brave enough to let your heart lead you home. The positive pregnancy test sat on the bathroom counter like a beacon of new possibilities. Sarah stared at it, one hand pressed to her stomach, the other holding her phone with the doctor's confirmation still lighting up the screen. After months of trying, of hoping, of wondering if her body would cooperate, here was their miracle. "Sarah," Marcus's voice carried up from the kitchen, "Emma's about to leave for school. Don't you want to say goodbye?" "Coming." She quickly tucked the test into her pocket. She had plans for sharing this news, and they involved all three of them. Downstairs, their morning routine was in full swing. The kitchen hummed with the sound of their growing business. Prep cooks, arriving for the day's orders, delivery vans being loaded, Emma practicing her spelling words between bites of breakfast. "Remember, I have choir practice after school," Emma said, gathering her books. At 10 now, she was all long limbs and growing confidence. "We're singing at the hospital's Christmas party next week." "The one we're catering?" Sarah asked, dropping a kiss on her daughter's head. Their catering business had grown enough to handle multiple events now, including regular contracts with the local hospital. "Yep, I told everyone my mum's company makes the best food in town." The casual plural, mums, still made Sarah's heart swell. Emma had started using it a few months ago, explaining that she had enough love for both her mothers, just like she had enough love for all her grandparents. Marcus wrapped an arm around Sarah's waist as they watched Emma climb into Abuela's car. "You okay? You seemed quiet this morning." "Perfect," Sarah smiled. "Just thinking about how full our lives have become." And they had. Their business now employed 15 people, including 3 other women who'd needed second chances. Their kitchen classroom program, teaching cooking skills to domestic violence survivors, had just received a community grant. Every week brought new customers, new stories, new opportunities to spread the kind of love that had saved Sarah herself. Speaking of full, Sarah patted the recipe box where she'd hidden 3 special cookies. I have a surprise for after dinner. That evening, after the kitchen was cleaned and the next day's prep was done, they sat down to their family dinner. Sarah had made all of Marcus's favorites, though the smells that usually made her mouth water now caused a slight quease. Another sign she'd have to learn to hide until the right moment. "Dessert time," Emma announced as soon as her plate was clear. "Can I get the cookies from the special box?" Sarah nodded, her heart thundering. Inside the recipe box were 3 sugar cookies, decorated to tell their story. She'd been practicing the design for weeks, waiting for this moment. Emma distributed them, one showing a little girl with angel wings labeled Big Sister, one with a cartoon of Marcus labeled Dad of 2, and one with Sarah's smiling face labeled Mom of 2, coming soon. She held her breath as they looked. At their cookies, Emma got it first. "Wait!" Her eyes grew huge. Am I... Marcus looked from his cookie to Sarah's face, hope dawning in his eyes. "Really?" Sarah nodded, tears spilling. "Really? Due in July." Emma launched herself across the table, nearly upending her milk. "I'm going to be a big sister, just like in my drawings." "Your drawings?" Sarah asked. Emma ran to get her sketchbook, flipping to recent pages. There, among her usual family pictures, were several showing a baby, their family of 3 becoming 4. "I had a feeling," Emma said proudly, "just like I had a feeling about you being my second mom." Marcus hadn't spoken yet. When Sarah turned to him, she found him crying freely. "A baby," he whispered. "Our baby. Are you happy?" She hadn't realized how nervous she was until that moment. He pulled her close, then reached for Emma, gathering them both in his arms. "Happy doesn't begin to cover it. This is everything." Later that night, after Emma had finally gone to bed, too excited to sleep until she'd made lists of potential baby names, Sarah and Marcus lay wrapped in each other's arms. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For seeing me. For loving me, for giving me a family and a home and a life bigger than I ever dreamed possible." He placed his hand over her still flat stomach. "Thank you for giving us so much love to grow into." Outside, snow began to fall, the first of the season. Inside, their home was warm with the promise of tomorrow, of new life, of love that just kept growing. Sarah smiled in the darkness, thinking of all the drawings Emma would make, all the recipes they'd create, all the moments yet to come. This was what happily ever after really meant. Not a perfect ending, but a perfect beginning again and again, with the people who loved you exactly as you were.